What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight. I'm your host, owner, and founder of Vicktory Life, Dwight Vick. And today I have a Peninsula District great, a legend, a champion, a man that coached a lot of great players, was a nemesis to me and my crabbers. We're going to dive into that. But I have the great Coach Sexton joining me right now on the Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight. Coach, how you doing, man?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh man, thank you for joining, man. So as I told you before we got locked in, I know we've had our challenges trying to get this schedule, both being busy, having families. You have 3 kids, I have 3 kids, but it's great to have you on because you can, when you're growing up in a city like Hampton, and I lived in Newport News, and I always said the Peninsula District, and this is just Dwight Vick's opinion. People have kind of questioned it, but a lot of people agree with it. A lot of people agree with me. I've always felt the golden era of Peninsula District sports, high school football, basketball, track, all of that was like from the late mid-'80s to the early 2000s, the mid-2000s. And I feel like that was a golden era because social media really hadn't come into play. We didn't really have this many distractions. I can remember being a kid in middle school in the 80s, going to see Eric Cunningham winning the state championship against TC Williams at Todd Stadium. And then, I remember going against you guys, Coach Bill D, who we're going to talk about later. It was just a great time in the city and in the 757. Not that it's not now, but I feel like the city shut down when football and basketball happened. So many legendary coaches. And we're going to talk about those coaches. But Coach Sexton, I want to talk about your foundation. Many people know you as a 4-time state champion. You produce a lot of college players, help a lot of kids, focus and achieve their academic and athletic goals. But some people don't know who you are. Talk about your childhood, where you grew up at, and your family, and just where you come from. Who is Stan Sexton in that aspect?
Well, I'm just a regular old guy. I grew up in Hampton. I lived right off of LaSalle Avenue, just down from Kickotan Road. I remember as a kid always going to, my dad was a principal. I don't know, you might be too young to remember old Thorpe Thorpe Junior High School. It's where the parking lot of the new stadium is now. Used to be junior high school. Across the street used to be Willis Elementary, but my dad was the principal there, and nice. I just remember as a kid going to sitting up in the building because the building overlooked the old Darling Stadium and watching the football games. And I used to love, my Phantom people are going to hate me for this, but I used to love going to the Hampton games, Hampton High School football, because that was, Phoebus wasn't around then. It was Hampton, Bethel, and Kickotan at the time. Mm-hmm. And then I remember a couple of times, this goes way back, I remember a couple of times towards the end of the rivalry, before they closed Newport News High School on the Thanksgiving Day, going to the Old Hampton Newport News rivalry game. And now I was real young there. I was probably maybe 4 or 5 years old at the time, but I can still remember the excitement of going to those games. So that's what really got me excited about playing football. I just remember as a kid walking the hallways at Thorpe Junior High School and old guys like, oh gosh, now I'm Simon Gupton, Woodrow.
Yeah. They coached me. Those are my coaches.
Yeah, Woodrow, who's at Hampton now. I just remember watching those guys, and they were such an inspiration to me. Alex Hill, who played at Pembroke High School. Man, those guys, those guys to me were like idols. I saw those guys, and I wanted to play football too. So I started playing for the Armstrong Vikings, the Armstrong and Keaton Vikings. We were the team back then. I mean, we had guys like Victor Hill, Terrence Howell, Ernest Howe, Kevin Gould. I played with all those guys in rec league. I mean, we were we were tough. I mean, golly, it was some great athletes, you know. And I just remember, I always wanted to play running back, but then you get out on the field with those guys and realize, you know what, there's no way in the world I'm playing running back. So I wanted to play. I wanted to touch the football. So I felt the next best place to play, because there's no way I could play quarterback, was play center. That way I touched the ball every play. That was my mind thinking back then, you know, when you're 7, 8 years old. So that's why I started playing center, and I played center all my life, all my career. And then, you know, I just remember it was like, man, I'm going to play at Hampton High School. And I remember meeting Coach Smith. I guess, I don't know, again, like I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and, you know, Coach telling me, you know, giving me words of wisdom. I couldn't remember what he told me, but I just remember him talking to me. And that was a big deal, you know. And then they built Phoebus, and then right down the middle of LaSalle, one side went to Hampton, the other side went to Phoebus. I ended up going to Phoebus, and I think, you know, everything happens for a reason. You know, at the time, you know, you were disappointed, but you know what? I made lifelong friends at Phoebus, played with some great guys, Mike Roberson, Kevin Bettis, Todd Lyon, Paul Jackson, all those guys, you know, got to play a year under Phil Smith, and then played for Wade Trainum, you know. And then I had an opportunity to go on and play. I went to Fork Union, played football at Fork Union for a year.
That's right. You did play at Fork Union. You know, it's so funny, Coach. Not to interrupt you. I'm going to finish that. My son just finished Fork Union post-grad in April. And I know you know this, but I only knew Fuma for football. And then when I went on a visit, they gave him, you know, some money to play, you know, as they recruited him. And I'm in the, you know, historic venue, the gym, and I'm looking at Mike Young, who's the head coach of Virginia Tech, all these guys, UNC, and I'm like, man, I didn't even know about the basketball.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember Chris Washburn.
I know of him. You know, I'm younger than you, but
he was there when I was there. Now, again, I was in the post-grad program. He was in the high school program. And I just remember we would go to the games because there's nothing else to do at Fork Union. And just to watch him play, he was amazing. It's just a shame that he was not able to keep his act together, because he could have been an incredible professional player. But so I played for Red Pulliam at Fork Union, and Coach Schumann was our offensive line coach and defensive line coach.
He's been there forever.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he still looks like he can play. And then I went on and played at Virginia State University.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Virginia State. Yep.
And so,
how was that, Coach? How was Virginia State?
I love Virginia State. I tell you what, I had again a lot of great friends, a lot of guys I still stay in touch with today. It was a great experience. I tell you what, people go back and go, you know, things which, that's one thing that I would make sure never got changed in my life, was that experience I had with those guys at Virginia State. I loved every second of being there. You know, for Division II football, we were a tough team. I mean, playing against those guys, oh my gosh, you know, it was an amazing experience. George Moody was the head coach then. So, you know, got that. And then, you know, you come to the realization, like, you know what, I'm not going to go any further than that. What is it I want to do? Well, I always wanted to coach. So I just remember I was home for, I was home for something. And I remember having to go get my car inspected. And I'm sitting there in the place, and this guy walks in, and we sit down, we start talking, and we're talking football. And I was talking to him, I said, man, and it turned out it was Coach D.
Wow.
And I had never met Coach D before. And then he was telling me, oh, yeah, I'm the head coach at Phoebus High School. And I'm like, wait a minute, I went to Phoebus High School. So so I told him, I said, well, I'm done with school and I really want to get involved with coach. And he goes, well, come on over and volunteer. And so that was in the spring of 91. And I went and I started showing up weightlifting, weight trainings 3 times a week, went with the staff on a couple of coaching clinics. I just remember talking to him and Greg Narvid. I know they probably got tired of me talking to him all the time because I was just asking a million questions, And I remember the day before practice started. Now, again, I'm just volunteering. The day before practice started, Bill calls me up and says, hey, we just had a coach quit. Guess what? I said, what? He goes, now I've been working. I played offensive line all my life. I've been working with Greg Narvid with the offense and defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, one of the coaches just quit. He got a job somewhere else. And he goes, I don't have a running backs coach and a linebackers coach. He goes, you're now a paid coach and you're the linebackers and running backs coach. And I'm like, I had this look of like, coach, I don't know anything about running backs and linebackers. And Coach D was like, well, you got 24 hours to learn. See you tomorrow. And this is before YouTube. And
yeah, I know.
So I just remember calling Greg Narvid up going, Greg, all right, I need help. So I remember spending about maybe 4 or 5 hours on the phone with Greg, talking to him, just going through the playbook, trying to figure out and, finding old, running to the library, the old Hampton library, and seeing see if I could find books on running backs and linebackers. And holy cow, it was a rough year that first year, just, learning technique.
And Coach, sorry, but you guys also, because you came in 91, interesting enough, 1990 was my freshman year at Hampton. That year I was on varsity, and Phoebus beat us 22-16 in Darling Stadium. I remember that. And you guys ran the triple option. Yeah. TJ Carrington and Torrey Edge and those guys. So you had to really know the running back position because the different reads and it wasn't like a spread. That's what I'm saying. I remember that offense, Georgia Tech ran a version of it. You got to really know how to run that offense. There's a lot of different things you could do off play action and different formations, reverse pivots. There's a lot of different things that goes into that offense.
Oh man, steps. And Coach D, the big thing was harped on was the backs being able to block because, like you said, triple option, a lot of times, the wishbone, a lot of times that lead back is blocking out on the perimeter. And I had to, teaching somebody to block was not a big deal for me because that's what I did all my life. But, with the steps and aiming points and, pockets and, just learning how to be a running back. And I just remember Bill telling me every day, look, great running backs, you just get them going in the right direction. He goes, they know how to play running back. He goes, just don't overcoach them. Just make sure, and I got better as it went on. I mean, I was blessed to really coach some great running backs. I got a chance to work a little bit with TJ Carrington. And then after TJ, it was Antoine Womack.
Antoine Womack. I was waiting for you to say his name. Oh, my gosh. Listen, he's special. He's still special.
Yeah. He's another one looked like he'd get out there and start playing.
Yeah.
And then Oh my gosh, we've had some great ones. Gavin Walls. Oh gosh. And of course, I'm getting old. My brain doesn't, and then we had guys like Elon Lewis.
Elon went to Virginia Tech. He was there when I was there.
Oh my gosh. Him and Antoine were probably the two most physically gifted running backs. I mean, they were both very different style running backs. Antoine was he was a great one cut and he was gone. But he could run you over if he had to. Elon was he was a bull. I mean,
he was a load.
Yeah, I mean, he was about 5'8", 5'9", 215 pounds. He reminded me, I don't know if you remember the Newsom that used to play running back for the Cowboys, the big Elon reminded me of him with those big, huge thighs, and he'd hit the pile and the pile would move 5 yards. And then, you had guys and then probably as good as Elon, probably the best all-around running back I think I've ever coached was Tyree Lee.
Yes, wow.
Because Tyree, I mean, he could catch the ball well out of the back. I love Elon and I love Antoine. If y'all listening or whatever, I apologize, but y'all could not catch for nothing. But Tyree could catch the ball, and just he was so elusive. You couldn't hit him. I mean, he'd get in. It was just amazing. I just remember one year. I mean, his senior year, he had first play of the game in the state championship against Stonebridge. We give him play, just a little stretch play. And he gets hit 2 yards deep in the backfield, and he ends up going 60-some yards.
60, I watched it. I saw it.
And it just, his balance was incredible and fast. So really been blessed. And linebacker-wise, to me, I've always said, great athletes make coaches great.
Sure do.
And, coaching guys like Manny Anderson and, Xavier Adebe. I mean,
I was waiting for you to say X. I was like, when we go holler at my man X, man.
Xavier, oh my gosh. I mean, I was a great coach when Xavier played linebackers. Like, I'm a great coach. It's like, look, let's go find the ball and
listen, let me chime in. I know this is your legacy spotlight. So I'm older than Xavier and his brother Nathaniel, but those are my brothers. I love those guys. Great people, class acts. DB's going to be a great coach up at Tech. He's recruiting my nephew. That's Derek Fisher at Bethel High School.
Okay.
But as a fan, I loved watching Xavier DB play. Even if I don't care if it's a Hokie. He could have been at Maryland. He could have been at Norfolk State. His instincts, along with another guy you're familiar with, my brother and teammate, Myron Newsom, when he was at Hampton. They had instincts for the ball, and Xavier was so athletic.
Yeah.
I go back. I'm a fan. I'm a historian. I love the present and the future, but I love the past. And I go back on Channel 48 on the app or on my YouTube TV, and I watch games. You mentioned Stonebridge game. By the way, Stonebridge has to hate y'all. Every time they got there, they saw y'all. Good Lord. But DB, I just want to give him his flowers, man. Him and his brother, but especially Xavier, he was so gifted. Yeah. I mean, he just and he was an athlete. Like you saw it when he was at Tech. He would get an interception, boom, he's gone. There was a game real quick, and I'll let you continue to give people their flowers. But there was a game against USC his freshman year. USC were the 2-time defending national champions. He played as a true freshman and was matched up against Reggie Bush. Yeah, and contained him. But he ended up coming out the game late with a pectoral muscle tear. Yeah. And then, of course, Reggie Bush is one of the best of all time. So, he did what he did. But that's when I knew he was going to be special. But I'm sorry. You see, I'm a fan of Xavier.
we could spend the next 3 hours talking about Xavier. I tell you, funniest story. Ron Johnson, coach with Ron with years. Love coaching with Ron. Ron was the head JV coach, and Nathaniel was a special player. And I remember Ron coming in one day, and he goes, "Look," he goes, "I know Nathaniel is a great, great player." He goes, "But his brother is a different." He says, he goes, "Just wait till you see." And this was when Xavier was an 8th grader. He goes, "Just wait till you see this young kid." He goes, he goes, different mindset. You know, both of them are off the field just as kind. And he goes, but boy, when Xavier got on the field, he didn't like anybody.
Yeah.
Like you. I mean, it was just, oh gosh, he used to get so mad at me because I coached him every day because he played fullback and he played linebacker.
We don't know that he also played on offense.
Yeah. And I just remember one practice. We had this tunnel. I called it the Tunnel of Love, and it's the tunnel you run through, and there's tires.
Mm-hmm.
We would always make the running backs run through, and I would always tell them, look, you know, if your knee touches the ground or if you drop the ball, you got to go again. And that thing was tough enough to go down and back through it, but I would always make them go 3 times. Down and back was 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was this one kid, and he kept dropping the ball, or he was so that everybody would have to go do it. And finally, everybody made it through, and Xavier was just exhausted. He was just over there just glaring at me at a water break, and I'm just like, oh gosh. So we were working on pass blocking with the running backs. And James Holbert, I don't know if you know Coach Holbert.
No of them. Don't know him.
Yeah.
Personally.
So Holbert's over there, and I said, Holbert, you get over there and you be the quarterback, and we're gonna. So we had, oh gosh, I can't remember the kid who was trying to block Xavier, and Xavier just ran this kid over and hit Holbert at full tilt speed. Holbert gets up, glasses are all cockeyed, and he was like, what in the world? And then Xavier just walks by me, and I know he was looking at me going, I wish that was you. But Holbert looked at me, and I gave him another break to kind of give Holbert a chance to get himself back together. And I was like, why didn't you move? He goes, well, I didn't think he was going to hit me. I said, well, Holbert, pissed off. What would make you?
Oh my goodness.
Xavier, I mean, that's the way he played. It was high intensity all the time. And if you didn't practice with intensity, he was going to take it out on you.
Yeah, and I think that's what made you guys great, because I want to add, you know, obviously the Tidewater area, Peninsula District, the South Side, the region over the last 25 to 30 years is no longer a secret. You got so many big time programs coming in, but for the longest time, I really feel like my alma mater, Virginia Tech, and even to some degree UVA, they got Womack. But when I was at Tech and right after I left, that Phoebus pipeline to Virginia Tech, I know Elon Lewis has some injuries, but DJ Parker, my brother, Stephen Friday, the DB brothers, and I know there might be some guys I'm getting old too, but point is, thank you. My point is, you guys were producing great student athletes and kids that all went on to have major impacts at some major universities, especially my alma mater. I mean, a kid like DJ Parker, man, you know, I've had him on here. He was one of my first guests about 5 years ago. And I don't think people give him enough credit. I mean, he was one of the best safeties in Virginia Tech history, man. And won the state championship for you, right?
Yeah. I tell you, DJ is one of the most unselfish, team first. We used to have a saying, team me, big team, little me. And he was the epitome of team before me. Mm-hmm. I remember in 2001, we won the state championship. We had Ronnie Hendricks at quarterback.
Yes, we did. Yep.
Rest in peace, Ronnie. And then the next year, we really didn't have a quarterback. And DJ had played wide receiver the year before in '01. And I remember Bill going to him, and DJ was going to be like one of the top receivers in the area. I remember Bill calling him in and said, DJ, we need a quarterback. DJ goes, well, I've never played quarterback, coach, but I'll do my best. And shoot, we won a state championship with DJ at quarterback.
You should, yeah.
And safety. I mean, and it just, you know, he put it all aside, you know, to help do was best for the team. And I mean, just the epitome of a team player. I mean, he was just, and he's from, I don't get a chance to talk to these guys as much as I would love to, but, you know, I see him on Instagram and he's doing great, you know, and, you know, I always love it when he'll post a picture outside of his, you know, his house where he lives. It's such a beautiful view. And I always tell him I'm jealous.
Yeah. DJ's a class act, man. That's my brother. He also was on a podcast when me and Mike Vick had our podcast for 3 years, and DJ's always thanking me. He said, man, Vic, you showed me so much love. I said, because I respect you as a man, I also was a fan of you as a player. And I just like people that carry themselves with class. That's just always been me. Let's tap into someone I want to talk about for an extensive amount of time, Coach, and that's Coach Bill D. I've often said, and I love the fact that I am blessed to have this platform with Vicktory Life when I do my podcasting and I'm on other platforms being interviewed. When I say the golden era of the Peninsula District with football and basketball, I am not taking away what Blunt and Woodrow's doing now and my guy, David Porter at Bethel. Good guys, great coaches. I'm talking about, though, during your time, it was the perfect storm because you had the rec leagues, you had the middle schools, and the schools in City of Hampton, you had 4 high schools, and there was growth, but it wasn't saturated. So coaches worked at the school and they coached, and they seemed to stay forever. You had, of course, Tommy Reaman, God rest his soul, that was at Ferguson, then Warwick. And then you had you and Bill D. You had Mike Smith. You had Coach Kaz. You had my man at Denby. So many great. How can I forget one of my favorite people and coaches, Kurt Newsom. Yeah. Right. So you think about the battles, but it starts with a coach that picks his staff and has a vision for his school and his program. Bill D. Was a great coach and a great man. I met him a few times, but I didn't know him in the capacity that you knew him. So can you talk a little bit about his legacy and coaching for him and what you learned from him? I just want to know, because I've never really talked to anybody other than players, but you had a different relationship with him. What was that like?
Well, first of all, before I get started, I want to say coaching in the Peninsula District at that time, you had Mike Smith at Hampton, Kozlowski at Bethel, you know, Bill at Phoebus, and then Kurt at Kicatan, and then you had, you know, Tommy at Ferguson, then you had Bob Schmidt.
Yeah.
I mean, coaching in the Peninsula District at that time was, I mean, to me, I would put it against any area in the country. Mm-hmm. You know, each week you had to sit there and make sure you had a great game plan because, you know, you could get out coached in the blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
But getting to Bill, again, like I said, you know, it was just one of those chance meetings where we met and we kind of really hit it off. Bill, I will have to say, Bill, a lot of times was really, Bill was, this is what you get. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to tell you. But if he was upset about you or something or with you, he told you he was upset and it was done. There was no, I hold a grudge against you or whatever. It was like, this is it. Bam. All right. Now we move on. He was always straightforward. I think all your great coaches or anybody in leadership is straightforward. You know, if they're great leaders, they're going to be straightforward. You knew what his expectation was. He did not have any secret agenda. You knew what his agenda was. You knew. The one thing I love about Bill is it was always about the kids. He would fight for the kids. I mean, if there was a kid that needed help at 3 o'clock in the morning, Bill, you call him up and Bill would be there for that kid, for that player. I mean, it didn't even have to be a player. It could have been one of his students, you know. He was always about those guys. And a lot of people never saw that about Bill because he did not like to make that, you know, a big public thing. That was, you know, his deal. I mean, those were his children, you know, he took care of them. I felt, you know, the more I got to know Bill, the closer we got. I mean, I felt like, you know, he was a brother, an older brother, and I do have a brother, but he was like another brother I had that we always, you know, there was a lot of times where it was just me and him in the office, and we talked about life, we talked about coaching, and that was the big thing where I think he helped me the most. Is I learned a lot from him on how to organize, how to create a practice schedule, how to game plan. You know, just, you can't just be off the cuff. You know, the big thing was I remember he goes, you know, change, kids don't like change. You want to keep everything the same so it becomes super repetitive and then they don't have to think. But he goes, if you go and you change something every time you go out, then they never build up that that chance to get that repetitive muscle
routine, muscle memory,
and so and that was the big thing. He would always preach me, look, keep it the same, keep it the same, keep it the same. If you're going to change, wait till the off season, then change there and start in the off season with the change. You don't want to change something in the middle. There's nothing wrong with going back to the basics. He goes, there's nothing wrong with like creating a foundation and then put a building block and add something a little bit, but don't change what you're doing. And and Bill was always big on trying to find a better way to do it. We were always going to coaches clinics, which I loved. That's one thing about the coaching, other than, you know, the camaraderie on the field. If there was one thing outside of, you know, in the off season, what I missed was being with the other coaches at a coaches clinic, learning, talking to other coaches, then going back and sitting down with the coaches and talking about what you learned. How can we implement this? How is this going to make us better? And that was the big thing about Bill. Pushed you to your limit, not just the players, but the coaches. I remember a funny story about Bill. We're sitting in there in a coaches meeting, and this was when I had Xavier and Manny Anderson were linebackers. And then I had Eric Cadera and, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the other player. Anyway, I had 4 linebackers, and all of them, you know, the 2 backup linebackers were playing behind, you know, Xavier, you know, parade All-American, Manny, who was an All-State linebacker. But the other 2 guys could have started for any other team in the state of Virginia. But they didn't have behind. But I just remember Bill, we're sitting in a coaches meeting. Bill goes, all right, we're going over depth chart. He goes, all right. He goes, who are your top 2? And I'm Manny and Xavier. All right, who's behind Manny? Well, Cadera. He's behind Xavier. Oh, so-and-so. He goes, well, who do you have at number 3? Well, if emergency comes up, we can move. At that time, I think it was Stephen Friday. You know, Stephen was athletic enough where if we had to move him back there, he could play. He goes, well, who's your number 6? I'm like, Bill, if we're getting to number 6, we're in big trouble. He goes, I can't tell you exactly what he really said. He goes, well, you better have a plan. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you talk about this number 6 linebacker? I better, what? We ain't got that many people on the team. I just gotta figure it out. He goes, I don't pay you to sit there and wonder. You figure it out. So from that point on, I just felt like, all right, I made sure I knew if we had to go down to 3 deep, you know, that we had somebody that, you know, they may not be anywhere near the ones in front of them, but there was somebody available. But I mean, that's just the way he was. It was to the nth degree. And I never forget when Coach Holbert first came on the staff, and Bill put him with me to coach linebackers and running backs. So Holbert's over there with me, and we're working running backs. And all of a sudden, Bill, and I don't know if you know this about Bill, and you can ask some of the old guys about Bill always coached with one of these megaphones.
Oh, I didn't know that. With the thing, the blowhorn?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know
that. Those ones that have the sirens.
Yeah. I know. I can see them in mine.
Bill would get up and he would start talking. The kids used to always laugh because he would start talking to you through the megaphone, and he might be 2 feet away from you. It's like, all right. But he was on the game field, or the JV game field, and we were on the practice field over behind the tennis courts, and all of a sudden I hear this, Hobson! I don't pay any attention because he didn't say Sexton. So if he's not calling my name, I'm like, all right, I'm staying out of it.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And so nobody responds, and he yells, Hobson! And I look over at Bill, I'm like, who in the world is he calling? Who's Hobson? And I look at Bill, and he's looking over towards me and Holbert. So I'm like, well, is he calling Holbert? And he yells, you know, again, I can't repeat what he said.
You can say it.
Hey, Hobson! I said, Holbert, I think he's calling you. Holbert goes, my name ain't Hobson. I said, it don't matter. You go over and you find out what he wants. But, you know, it's just things like that. You know, we all had fun. I mean, one thing I do like about Bill was really, he was high intensity coaching. That was another thing I learned. He was big on making practice as high intensity as possible. So when the game came around, the game was nothing. You know, the kids never got frazzled because practice was so intense. And that's one thing I learned from him coaching is, you know, just your practices have to be at a higher level of intensity than the games. And if you're
Absolutely.
not, but he also understood that when there was times of levity, you know, he wouldn't just sit there and go, oh, what are y'all laughing at? He would break out laughing just like everybody else. So that was always good. You know, he knew that there was times where sometimes he had to break the tension of the practice and create a little levity in the situation. So, you know, it was always good. You know, he knew the proper balance of that intensity, but also we're having a good time out here. This is for fun. You know, not every kid is going to go to the next level, and he wanted to make sure they had fun. He wanted to make sure they did things right, but he wanted to make sure it was and one of the last things that he taught me, and I tried when I was a head coach, I tried to instill to my guys is, look, you have to get on the guys, and you may have to sit there and just chew one kid up and down the other, and you may have to be on his back all practice long. He goes, but you, and forgive me for saying this, he goes, but you damn well better not let that kid leave this building without telling them what a good job they did that day.
Mm-hmm.
let those kids ride their backs as hard as you can, but before they leave, you tell them what a great job they did. You pat them on the back and say, hey, we're going to have a better day tomorrow. I know it. You're a great player. And he goes, and that resonated huge within me, because I just remember sometimes as a player, the coach is having to ride you hard because you're just having a bad day. Mm-hmm. But that little bit of, hey, I saw really how hard you worked out there today. I know it was a rough day, but hey, you handled it well. And that made me want to go back out the next day. And that made me want to practice that much harder. And that really, really, to this day, I tried to, even if I have to, you know, with my kids, if I had to get on them, well, they're not kids anymore. Shoot, my son's 30. And my
yeah. But you're still their parent.
But, you know, and I know they have rough days, so I always try to think of something positive to talk to them about, you know, to say, hey, you know, yeah, I know this wasn't good, but, you know, you handled it, you made, but those type of things, organization, preparation, you know, and a lot of people, you know, I got to be honest with you, Bill and Mike were not friends.
But this is good. Keep segueing. Go into it, because this is what we're going to get into.
But a lot of people, I know from Bill's part, there was a lot of respect for Mike, a lot of respect for what Mike had done. You know, Bill would watch tape. Oh my gosh, Vic, if you would see in his office, we had tapes on Hampton going all the way back probably to the mid 80s, where he had converted old 16 millimeter film into VHS and watching. When we would prep for you guys, when we played for you guys, we would go back 10, 12 years, because Mike was always good at going back and finding something that hurt you, or finding something. We would go back and self-scout ourselves through every game up to that point to find out what teams did to us that hurt us, because Bill knew that Mike was going to exploit that. And that's what good coaches do. I mean, but
sure. Yeah.
But Bill, there was things that he would see that Mike did that, like our little counterplay, we called it handback. We got that from Mike, you know. Oh. So, I mean, there was things, they respected each other. They respected their ability. Even Bill never questioned Mike's coaching ability. I mean, Bill always respected and knew Mike was like thing.
Now, let me ask you this. Don't hold that thought, because this will keep that thought, I should say, because I have, you know, it's funny, man. My dad is 75 years old, and I was talking to the other day, man. He still goes to the games, and you know, my mom and dad, my sister live in Hampton, and of course, with my nephew going into his junior year at Bethel, Phoebus has become and was even when you were there, but now it's crazy. They have become the standard, along with Maury and Highland Springs, when it comes to championship pedigree in Virginia football. They're getting ready to probably break the all-time winning streak with consecutive games won. They just tied the record you did with 4 consecutive state championships. Congratulations to Coach Blunt. But even now, in my late 40s, man, when I talk about Hampton and Phoebus, it's people in their 60s and their 50s. As my dad and I were talking, like, you know, well, they got to beat Phoebus.
Yeah.
The Phoebus rivalry, though, with Hampton. Now, old heads will tell you it was Bethel because of Cos and Smith, because Phoebus was the last, they came on later. So it was Hampton and Bethel. And then Kickertan kind of stepped in there with Kurt Newsom. They had battles. But I remember even during my time when Womack and TJ and Torrey and those guys came, the Phoebus games were so intense. Hampton and Phoebus had similar demographics. and it was personal. And the rivalry when I left and was at Tech, and then even when I got out of Tech, the emergence of Womack, and then you had Taj Boyd and Tyrod, then you had the DBs, and you had so many great names on both sides. That rivalry became not just in the region, it became statewide. They were with David Wofford at quarterback, and all the different people that would come from Northern Virginia, Richmond, and even surrounding areas to watch that game. And then it made for great theater because Coach Mike Smith and Bill D respected the hell out of each other, but they were ultimate competitors, and it was such an important game, even though at times they were in different regions, but then it just emerged into this really historic rivalry. Now, of course, in the last several years, Phoebus has been a better program and gotten the best out of Hampton and everybody. But during that time period, a long time period, it was a crazy rivalry. What did that game mean to you with Coach Bill D and your coaching staff?
Oh my gosh, the Hampton game was always, it was like the pinnacle game. I mean, I'm not going to put it up there with the state championship game because that's, but I will say the intensity of that game was probably higher than a state championship game. Everybody could sit there and say all they want to. Oh, it's just another game on the schedule. No, it was a war. It was a battle, and you know, a lot of the kids, and it's just like thing with all the kids in the Hampton, they had played against each other all the way through rec league or played on the same team, and now they're at different high schools, so that intensified the rivalry even more because you always want to get the better of your buddy. Yeah. And again, there was, oh, you're on the Phoebus side or of Hampton. We don't like you. You're on the east side of Hampton. We don't like you. And it was that. I mean, so the intensity of the rivalry was, really high. And I just remember one time, me and Greg Day were standing on the sidelines before one game against Hampton. And I just remember going out on the field and pregame, and the stadium was already packed. Yes. And I'm looking around going, this is what it must be like to coach in college. We go in and just the intensity of the atmosphere, it was hard to breathe. I mean, it was just like, wow, this is, and I remember, and I want to say my first year, 2009, when I came back to Phoebus from Warwick, and we had to play Hampton again in the playoffs. But the first game we played in 2009 during the regular season, they set a record for attendance. Yeah. Game. And I just remember looking up in the stands and then after the game, people telling me they couldn't go to the bathroom because they couldn't get down the steps because they had packed so many people into the stadium. There was no way to get down. So I remember that we played them again in the playoffs. And I just remember that the fire marshal came in and cut the capacity down. And they cut off ticket sales, I think, like at 6,500 people because at that first game in the regular season, there was something like almost 15,000 people at this game.
Easily. It was like when we played Bethel when they were 9-0 and we were 9-0 for the district title. Bethel had Chuck, A.K. Iverson, and and we had Fred Brown and Sean Hamlet. And I remember, and it was the same thing in 2009. I remember coming out in warm-ups and seeing people, and you know the neighborhood I'm talking about, behind the visitor side, sitting on top of houses.
Yes.
They were on the roof watching the game because they couldn't get in. They were on the roof. And I'm like, I got same thing in 2009. Because I was living here in Northern Virginia, and there were people here in Prince William County. Hey, man, I'm going to that Phoebus Hampton game. My dad loves that game, and he's still down there. He said, hey, I got to go over to the school and buy tickets. They stopped selling enough. You know, you had to get to the game at 5 o'clock, almost like right after work, leave work early. That's why I say it was the golden era. And the game didn't disappoint most of the time. You know, you guys, I will say this. I'm going to go on record. This is your Legacy Spotlight, but I'm the host. That was my favorite game to play in. And I love Bethel. Kickintown was cool. And it wasn't about wins and losses. It was like the vitriol, the hatred on the field, the trash talk, the coaches going back and forth. It was personal. And then you wake up, win or lose, and you go watch the JV play on Saturday, and it was the same energy.
Yeah, it was. It just was a different atmosphere when Phoebus and Hampton played. It's a special game. I mean, I haven't been around. I went and saw, oh gosh, this is before we moved down here to Georgia, the year before. So I guess it was the year before COVID.
Okay.
They did, because I don't know if Great American Rivalries had that listed as one of the top 5 rivalries in the country, the Hampton Phoebus game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're still doing that now or not, but
I don't think so.
But they honored the 2001 state championship team, Phoebus State Championship team. So I was there for that, and the intensity level was still there. At that time, Hampton was kind of going on the downside curve, and Jeremy was really starting to establish his. You know, he's on the upswing of his, but the intensity was still there. I mean, the excitement, the intensity, you know, I was thinking, man, must be what it's like, you know, at Ohio State, Michigan, Virginia Tech, you know, Alabama, Auburn, you know, that type of intensity. It was great. That was a game, you know, we would always, every game we played, we game planned for everybody we played, but everything was geared up to going into that Hampton game. Mm-hmm. And I remember in 2011 when Danny broke the winning streak. We played Woodside, then we played, I think, Gloucester, and then we ended up having to play Hampton at the last game of the season. And I remember Mike and me sitting there when they came out with the schedule. And this was back in the late winter of that year in 2011. Mike, I don't know, we had met somewhere and we started talking. It's like, look, you know, we need to move this game. This game, you know, because, you know, the intensity level is so high for that game. And then that was the last game of the season. Had to turn around and play a playoff game the very next week.
It's tough. That's a great point.
And we both did our best to see if we could just kind of switch another game, but they would not let us, boy. And I know Mike was upset. And then, like always, the game went into overtime, and Mike beat us in overtime. He had that running back, McPherson. No, what was his name? The big kid that. And he ended up on that next year.
Oh yeah, he went to Phoebus. He went to Virginia Tech. How do I not know that? Yeah. Oh my gosh! Oh my God! He had a great game. McMillan, I think.
Something like that.
He had a great game against Ohio State. He was an animal. He had injuries too. I interviewed him how do I not know? I can see his face and his dreads. He had dreads.
But they were in overtime and they had 4th and 8 at the 8-yard line. And he broke an incredible run. He broke like 4 tackles and ended up scoring. And they beat us in overtime. And, fortunately, we went on and ended up winning the state championship that year. But I just, that intensity level, I just remember I was so thankful because we were still the 1 seed in that year. So we went in, so we ended up getting, having to play the 4 seed. Or
Marshawn Williams.
Marshawn Williams, that's it.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure I got that.
Marshawn, well, he was a stud.
God. Yes, he was. Yeah, he had a short, great career at Tech, but he got injured. And he talks about it on Facebook, what could have been. Right. Yeah, sorry to interrupt, man, but I wanted to make sure I get him. I'm glad you did,
because that kid, I still see him breaking those runs. I mean, he broke, which is highly unusual, Boombox, linebacker, Boombox Lyles hit him and he broke through, which was highly unusual because Boombox never missed tackles. And he broke through his tackle and, like I said, broke like 3 more tackles in that game, ended up scoring the game-winning touchdown. So, but that intensity level, that game, and then turn around having to prepare for another tough game for the first round of the playoffs where, it's win or go home. And so, but yeah, I just remember us commiserating about that, having to play each other the last week of the season and turn around for the playoffs.
Well, it's also real too because, one thing I see now when I go visit the 757, I've been living up here in Northern Virginia, the DC area for 25 years now. I miss home. I love home, but I love where I'm at now. And one thing I think Phoebus and Hampton and Bethel and what that district did, and I don't care what anyone says, I stand on this, it made the rest of Virginia step up because now Northern Virginia football has some really great teams and great coaches. Richmond has always had great talent, but they've got great coaches now. Lauren Johnson at Highland Springs, Varina's good. They got great coaches. And even the South Side, for the longest time, Norfolk and Virginia Beach and Chesapeake and those guys in P-Town were known for basketball. Mm-hmm. And now you got Maury and Phoebus, who are both carrying the torch for the Eastern region. It's weird, too, because, side note, I know you probably, even though you're in Georgia, you see it's different. I know the great Danny Mitchell, my position coach and my mentor, he used to talk about and vent to me, and I would vent to him about the new classifications where you have all these teams, you'll have 2 teams from the same region or even same district going into 2 different divisions. And it's just because of enrollment. And it's now you got, no disrespect to my alma mater, but a handful of years ago, Hampton was 3-7. And they made the playoffs. I'm like, what in the world but that's the new rule. And I think that's why when I look at Todd and Darling Stadium, unless it's Phoebus versus Ward, maybe Hampton, Bethel. Other than that, the crowds are terrible.
Yeah.
The energy's not the same. There's the spirit. I mean, it's just, even though the games come on TV, there's no more announcers, Bob Henson, Tim Cole. There's none of that anymore. And I just feel like the kids miss out on a great experience because, Coach, when I was going against you guys in football, I played football and basketball, but I remember, man, feeling like I was part of something that was bigger than me. Like, because you had the sideline reporters, the player of the game, and as you mentioned, we grew up playing against and with each other, and you knew, even at a 15, 16, and 17-year-old, you knew what your staff was about, the players y'all produced, and the other coaches, as we mentioned in this episode, what they did with their players. It was special. And when I look at the games now, I'm like, man, I was really part of something pretty cool, man. But everything changes and everything evolves. Some stuff gets better, some stuff regresses. With you, though, I do have a tough question for you, a fun question. What was your favorite state championship team?
Oh,
I know that's a hard one. I'm putting you on the spot.
I got to say, I wasn't the head coach, but probably the favorite state championship team was the first one.
Really? Okay. That makes sense, though.
In 2001, those guys, you know, they were a great group. They're the ones that, you know, we had a lot of great teams, but we could just never get over the hump. And that was the team that made the decision that they were going to do that. You know, Jeremy Blunt was the captain on the team. Mike Dixon. We had Ronnie Hendricks at quarterback. You know, we had we called him Baldy. Gosh,
No, say when they know him.
Travis,
Baldy.
right? Travis.
Okay. Oh yeah, Travis. Right. Okay.
And then we had his brother Quincy on defense. We had Michael Littlejohn, Shadid Harris, DJ in the secondary. Had Vernon Lee back there in the secondary. Travis Richmond, Darnell Allen. Oh gosh, Big Floyd Braxton up front. Alan Patrick. I mean, that team were guys that they had made the decision they're going to do everything plus more. Those guys were guys, the first guys that we had when we said, all right, you know, we're done weightlifting today. They would be literally like, oh, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. And I just remember Greg Day would say, all right, I got him. I'll stay with them. And then we'd have, you know, still have 15, 20 guys in the weight room after doing a 2-hour workout, still want to work out. And those guys, that probably maybe, I mean, they were great football team, had some great talent, maybe probably not the most gifted. And I mean that like from top to bottom, right? You know, line to skill. They probably weren't the most gifted, but they probably were the hardest working of them all. And that set the standard for everybody else that came in, because, you know, Adibi was on that team. He played defensive end that year. You know, we had Elon. Elon played fullback that year. Now think about that for a second. Elon and Xavier played fullback on that team.
That's kind of insane.
Yeah. And I mean, we had these guys, they were just so good at, I'm going to do what's best for the team. They had that team spirit, and that just set the standard for where the program is now. And kind of like with Hampton, you know, you go back in the olden days with those guys, you look at the tradition Hampton's has. I mean, shoot, they got, you know, Dwight Stevenson, Chris Handberger, 2 Hall of Famers right there. You know, that I think Mike may have been an assistant coach when Chris Handberger was. Yeah. And Mike was the head coach, and then you look at all the great, you know, Woodrow, Simon Gupton, Victor Hill, Terrence Howe. Again, you just go through Tyrod. What's his name? That's coaching at. He coached at Virginia he played quarterback at Virginia, and I'm drawing a blank. It sucks getting old.
You know, it's okay. Marcus Higgins, Biscuit. I got stuck too. Biscuit, Marcus Higgins. Yep. You
know, great guys like that learn from their traditions of the past. Well, Jeremy and those guys set the tradition in 2001 that has created, and to where it is now. Now, as far as a head coach, I just can't say. Probably my first team as a state championship, because it was so. That team reminded me a lot, because that 2008 team was was a incredible football team. I mean,
Yeah, they were.
They were just, I mean, they only gave up, if I remember correctly, like 48 or 52 points.
Yeah, that was special.
And then all those guys went on, and we, you know, I think I only had, when I took over, when Bill retired, I only had like 8 starters back off of that team coming the next year. But those guys, again, the tradition has set, this is how you're supposed to work. And this is not acceptable. And losing was not acceptable. And they found ways, and they worked, and they came together. And then probably maybe my best team was the 2010 team. And I always like telling everybody this stat. In 2010, that team, in 15 games, 12 out of 15 games, we scored on our first offensive possession.
That's nice. That's amazing.
But the amazing stat is 8 of those 12 games, including the state championship, we scored on our first offensive play.
Man, you know, that I would have never known that. You got to go into the crates to find that stat.
Yeah,
because that's tough.
That team was really, really gifted offensively. I mean, Tyree at tailback. I had a tight end, Anthony Hayes. Anthony was 6'3", 6'4", maybe 200 pounds, but he ran a 4.4. So we could spread him, you know, flex him out and get him set up with a linebacker, and that kid couldn't cover him. You know, you're thinking of a tight end, you know, big 260-pound kid.
Yeah.
But Anthony Hayes was wide receiver, but we needed to have him on the field, so we put him at tight end. And you know what? He was like, Coach, I really don't want to play tight end, but if it's going to get me on the field, and if it's going to, and then he played free safety on defense. So,
hey, man, listen, I watched those teams from afar. By then, I was living up here. And I remember I was just keeping up, you know, because you can watch online, or, you know, you see that, you know, social media is now prevalent. You can, watch games. People might live stream. Those were some really, really good teams. And unlike some people, I know I'm a Hampton Crabber, but I'm a Virginian, and I'm a PD guy. And I love the journey, and I love the kids, and I love to see them know what success feels like. So rivalry aside, I was happy and elated that those guys were able to make history. That's probably one of the few things on my athletic resume as I approach 50 I wish I could get, and that was a state championship ring. Football and basketball, Damon Bickle got hurt, Iverson and won it, and then in football, every year, my freshman year, we lost to Garfield in the state championship, first ever game at Darling, we lost, and then we were 12-0, and every year we lost to the eventual state champion, Norcom, Bethel, and it is what it is. I had a great individual career, but I watched you guys dump the Gatorade and water on you, and I saw you on the cover of the Daily Press holding it up and with the big coat on. I saw you. I followed you. I saw you. But it wasn't like I looked at it with any malice or I was like, hey, man, congrats to those guys, because as we sit here and reflect and we talk about what you and those young men and your staff, and even when you were an assistant, accomplished, is amazing. Even now, kind of transition to what Coach Muntz got going down there. I don't know him personally, but I've watched him from afar. I remember when he played, I'm not close with him, but if I would tell him in the group chat, tell him in the person, tell him on the podcast, whatever, is enjoy it now, because the hard part is, and you can relate to this, when you create expectations, the fans, the media, and everyone involved now hold you hostage to the expectations you created.
Yeah.
So now you can't go 11-3 and miss the states, because it's like, oh, you guys fell off. You have 2 seasons where you only have 9 or 11 wins, but you don't get that ring. Now the expectations you created are held against you. Isn't that crazy?
That is. One of the biggest things, and this is an example of what you're just talking about. I remember we were playing in 2010. We were playing Heritage, and Heritage was really, really down. I mean, they were just, I mean, they just didn't have any athletes. They didn't have great coaching. I mean, if it could go wrong for them, everything was going in the wrong direction for them. And I remember it was so bad I mean, we were up 49-0 at the end of the first quarter. And I literally didn't play a starter the rest of the game. So we go into halftime when we're up 56-0 at halftime.
It's crazy.
And it's one of those things where I've always told people, I ask no quarters, I give no quarters. If you're winning big and you start putting your kids in, I don't want them to stop trying their best, because this may be the one shot that, this young man has ever gotten a chance to play most of a game. Usually they play 4 plays at the end and they're getting a chance. I'm not going to tell a kid not to do their best and not to score a touchdown. Maybe the only touchdown a kid scores in his whole high school career. I don't believe that, whether it's being done against me or somebody else. But I remember getting booed going in at halftime by our own fans because they wanted us to break 100.
Well, that happened.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I remember, now getting into Jeremy, and I remember Jeremy doing it in the playoffs and all the flack he caught for that.
Against Jamestown, yep.
Yeah. And I remember I sent him a message, and I told him exactly what I just told you. I said, Jeremy, look, you cannot tell a kid, a player that works his butt off all year long and finally gets in the game, and it's a playoff game, and this may be the only opportunity this young man has, and he scores it. How do you tell them not to go and do their best? I said, don't listen to what they say. I said, because you know what? If you had to stop scoring at 70, they had to talk bad about you why you didn't score 100. You scored 100, now they're talking bad about you. I said, don't worry about what they say. You coach those kids the way you always been coaching them. You're doing a great job, and you're teaching those kids, no matter what the situation is, you always do it the best you can. And he has done that, and I am so proud. He's one that I coached on both sides of the ball, and he tells everybody today, he goes, I always thought Coach Sexton hated me because he was always, and I remember telling him when I brought him on the staff, and he was telling me that, I said, Jeremy, I saw great things in you, and I didn't want you to squander them. So I stayed on you all the time because I saw your leadership potential. I knew you were going to be a great leader. I didn't know you were going to be a football coach or what you were going to be in high school. But I knew whatever it was, you were going to be successful because you had that drive. And I would see sometimes you start to fall off and start trying to drift over, and I would get on your back and I would push you and I would push you and I'd push you. And you see that now, his drive to be the best. My one bit of advice is, and he hasn't done this, but I would tell him anyway, don't let it consume you.
Bingo. Yes.
Don't let it become that thing. And I think that's why I ended up getting out, because there was a point in time where winning became more important than the other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just remember my wife telling me one time, going, you're all stressed out. She goes, you got to look at what you're teaching the kids and what you're trying to teach them to be. Because sometimes you have to teach them how to learn how to overcome an obstacle such as a loss or something, and how do you get better. And that's when I finally realized, you know what, she's right there, because it became more about the W's than the lessons. And and that's something I had to that was a realization of mine. And And so, it was a hard pill to swallow, because, and I didn't want to get in the thing where somebody, all he cared about, I cared about the kids more than the wins. But unfortunately, my wife was great about being able to point out, hey, it's more about these kids than it is about the W's.
Well, and God bless her for saying that. And you did a great job, because I'm only going to ask you about your family, because I was going to ask you about your wife and how did you balance that? Because I know in the brief time I've done coaching, or just as I've gotten older, being a father of 3 and married 24 years, been with my wife 28, as a small business owner, and I'm a therapist and I coach and mentor and podcast. My children need me and my wife needs me, and I need to be there for them as well. And I know the sacrifices you and Bill D and Blunt make. And that's why I made the statement that you become a prisoner of the expectations you built. Yeah. And it's unfair, man. And thank God you kind of wrapped up as social media began to emerge. Yes. Now you got all these Facebook groups and these 13th graders talking crazy, and they're doing this. Anybody can get online and make an accusation, or he's over here, this kid lives with him, they're cheating, and name calling. I'm like, hey man, listen, it's not that deep. Take a breath. We are in July. Why are y'all premiering games that don't take place till November?
Right.
Yeah. It is insane. And that's why, man, I'm glad you still stay in contact with Blunt, because when you get into the coaching business, again, I know this personally, professionally, and I've seen it from afar and up close. You got to have a village around you that you can trust. You have to have a praying wife and a praying family, because you guys are scrutinized, unfairly judged, celebrated, blamed. You go through a range of emotions, and you can't lose yourself in that. You can't, because then all of a sudden you can forget who you are and why you got into the first place. So I'm glad you had that balance towards the end, and I'm glad she stayed up. And I'm glad. I think it's actually pretty cool, and I'll say this to kind of honor you. I'm glad that you were able to meet Coach Bill D and be his assistant, and I'm glad that y'all kind of did in a way where it was really assistant passing the torch. It was D to you to Blunt. Right. And then y'all all in your own way put your little spin on it and your own legacy, and obviously championships were the final result, but also you helped a lot of kids. Talk a little briefly, because we're almost done, just about fatherhood. You mentioned your lovely wife, kind of reminding you about purpose and what you're doing, but you're a father, and I know you love the rings and the wins and the memories and the competition, but that you and I were going to meet one day, and both of us were doing stuff with our daughters. I owed my, and I was like, hey man, do you? And you were like, yeah, do you? And we're going to make this work. How was fatherhood as you talk about getting old? I don't care about that, but because we all are getting old, that's a good thing. Yes. But you talk about your children, is that your biggest accomplishment?
Oh, by far. The birth, getting married to my wife was the greatest day ever. I love winning that state championship, but the joy I felt marrying my wife, and then second comes my kids, the birth of my kids. My oldest, Ty, he's 30. He works in the athletic marketing department at University of Pittsburgh. Chloe, my middle child, she's 29. She's she works for a government contracting company out of Charleston, South Carolina. And then my youngest works as an assistant office manager in Newport News for a psychology clinic.
Nice. That's my field. Good.
Yeah. And so, and all three of them have done extremely well. If there is one regret that I do have is during the time when they were small, and my wife, oh my gosh, she's just tremendous, because she was the true sense of a football widow from the last week of July to the second week of December. You know, I would leave to go teach, you know, sometimes, or go to practice. Sometimes, you know, we would practice at 5:30 in the morning. So I would leave the house at, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning and not get home till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And she's having to take care of, you know, babies. And I'm not around. And the one regret is I just wish I would have been able, when they were younger, to spend more time with them. But I tried to make the time I spent with them quality, that it was always around them, and it was doing things with them and doing, you know, making sure they knew that if anything happened, you know, I would drop whatever I was doing. And my son, he had a medical emergency one time. It was right at the beginning of practice one day. And I get a phone call, and my mom, she's like, we had to take Ty to the emergency room. I was like, all right, what emergency room? Oh, well, he's at Mary Immaculate. I said, all right. Thankfully, it was nothing major or anything like that, but I dropped what I did. I was like, I went and told my assistants, look, y'all got practice today. I got to go to my son's thing, and I'm going to be with him. So, and, you know, my middle daughter, I always told everybody I was, you know, she was my middle linebacker. I mean, she attacks everything with that intensity, but hates football. And I tell everybody to this day, I said, she hates football because that took me away from her. If, you know, and I regret that, because you know, she was a good little athlete. You know, she played basketball and everything. And then I think just over time, she saw how much sacrifice I made, and she didn't really want to do that. She liked her friends and everything. And so, but if I could have found a way, and I think Coach Blunt's doing a great job with his kids. He's really done, even when he was coaching with me, he's always found time with his kids. And that's something I wish if I could go back and do something a little better, I would find out how to spend more quality time with my kids than I did. But I always made sure as soon as football season was over, I tell my wife, look, it's the weekend. You know, if you want to go hang out with your friends, I got the kids. I'm taking care of the kids. If you want to go, you know, spend a night somewhere, go to the Outer Banks or something and just have an evening with a couple of your buddies, you know, I got the kids. Hey, you know, go do, so you can have your time, so you can. And I think that's really what made it work, is because I did give her an opportunity to get away and kind of escape. You know, escape's not the best word I want to use, but trying to just.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
For herself there, and I would watch the kids. But yeah, I love my kids. They're great. They've turned into fantastic people. Just went up a couple of weeks ago to Pittsburgh. Never been to Pittsburgh before. Visit my
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, great city.
It is. It really is. And spent some time with him, and that was great. You know, it's funny because now when they travel, anytime they go from home to work or work to home, our phones ring. And they'll just talk to us on their drive home. So to me, that's
blessing.
That's a huge blessing, because, you know, I have talked to people where I rarely ever hear from my kids or this, that, and the other. And I'm like, man, that's sad.
That's because you and your wife, I'm sorry, I apologize, your wife's name?
Carolyn.
That's because you and Carolyn gave them a platform and a supporting and loving environment where they want to share their future and their current environment with you. Yeah. As someone that has 3 kids myself, man, I was talking to my son last night. He's down at Wingate, and he was 10 o'clock at night, and we had him on speaker. He was just talking about his workouts and his summer school class, and then my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter, we're all on the phone. The previous night before that, talking about Love Island. I don't watch that mess, but they do. I just was listening to my daughters talk about who got kicked off, but I share your sentiments, and I'm glad that you've been blessed by a loving family, and I'm glad you have perspective as well, because you can pass on that perspective to other coaches. Last point, and we're going to wrap up. I'm going to sign off. What future advice? You mentioned, you've already kind of answered this somewhat with what you tell Coach Blunt, but talking to future coaches and players, what advice do you have regarding not just work-life balance, but just how to stay above water and enjoy the moment? What final thoughts do you have about that? Because you were a hard worker, you played for a hardworking coach, and that resulted in championships and kids getting scholarships and graduating. Many of your players are doing well, but that's not all there is to life. So what final thoughts do you have as we wrap up?
The big thing I would tell coaches is, first of all, make sure it's about the players. We all have egos, but we have to make sure that our egos are put aside, especially in this day and age. You really have to be there for the kids, because with all the social media now, they put things out there, but they need guidance. How to do that, how to, market themselves, unfortunately. But the big thing is, be flexible, be there for your players, find that right balance between your family and what you do. And most of all, just don't worry about what people have to say. You go and do your best job, and because you've said it already, you're going to have those that, if you're winning, you're never winning by enough. If you're losing, then you're the worst coach on the face of the earth. And I remember one time talking to a guy at Penn State camp that I worked, and I was complaining about, oh man, this is the second year in a row we missed the playoffs. We went 8-2 and didn't make the playoffs. We went 9-1 and didn't make the playoffs. The guy goes, look, stop whining. He goes, I worked my butt off, and my best record has been 5-5. And this is a great coach. So my thing is do the best you can with what you have. Be flexible. It's not about what you want. It's about what you can do for your athlete, for your kids, for your players, and to make them successful, not just on the football field, but to be great citizens. I remember Greg Day going, I'm training you to be a great citizen. So you walk off this field and it's all said and done, you can make great choices and great decisions for yourself, your family, your job, whatever it is down the road. And that's the big thing I want these young guys to know. Make great citizens. I know Dion catches a lot of flack for, how he does things.
Coach Deion Sanders, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. But he's making great citizens. He's training them how to be great men, not just football. I mean, he's trying to win games. He's getting paid to win, but in the meantime, he's still making great men.
I love that.
And that's what we have to do as men ourselves. We have to pass down and teach other young athletes. The big thing is to be a great person after this is all said and done. When that game is over, the referee holds the ball up. You go out and shake hands and tell that guy, hey, you may have kicked my butt today, but I gave it all I had, and I can't wait to play you next year. Hey, we'll see each other somewhere, and, we can hang out or whatever. It's not all about I hate you. It's about being a great person off the field. Yeah, once you walk between those lines, you can sit there and make up all the stories in your head about them that you want. But once you step outside those lines, you got to be a man of integrity.
Love it, Coach. Well said. I want to thank you for joining this Legacy Spotlight, man. This is one of my favorite ones, and I just want to thank you on behalf of the kids you coach, the parents you've interacted with, and the community you serve. We are grateful for you. This is why I do it. I don't get paid for these Legacy Spotlights, but I started this journey with the Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight episodes in 2020, and it's grown into a movement. So I appreciate you jumping on. And to those watching, I want to say thank you. And please continue to subscribe to our channel to see great men and women like Coach Sexton. Coach, you had a great run as a coach, and you're having a great run as a father. You said some great words, so I appreciate you. For those watching, remember what I say every episode. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, make sure you have a great impact and you leave a positive legacy. I'm Dwight Vick, owner and founder of Vicktory Life. On behalf of Coach Stan Sexton, the Phoebus Phantoms, a few of those Warwick Raiders, the Sexton family, and the people down in Georgia, we say thank you for watching. Everyone have a blessed year. We appreciate y'all. Salute. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.